Exclusive contract from Feilu Novel Network Novel. Undead Lord. Unlimited synthesis of the Dark Soul Emperor. At the beginning, the blood moon descended, and the demonic disaster ravaged. Everyone can awaken to become a lord and recruit troops to develop their territory to resist invasion. At the beginning of the game, Trekker Lin Xiu awakens the Undead Lord and can recruit all types of undead soldiers. It also awakens the unlimited synthesis of SSS level talents, which can combine all types of troops infinitely. Skull Warrior, Sad Face Strong Skull Warrior, Skull Emperor, Sad Face Purgatory Underworld Emperor, Dead Spirit Ice Dragon, Sad Face Cold Ice Dragon King, Undead Mage equals, Undead Master. Lin Xiu plunged into the bone burial ground and frantically synthesized. When he led the Supreme Death Emperor out of the novice village, the whole world was shocked. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Listing remarks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Almost on the shelves. The book will be sent on the 14th, and today is the 20th. It's fast to spend about 6 days in Feilu, isn't it? In fact, the author initially prepared to be listed in 3 days, and indeed wrote about the listing chapter, but my ID card has expired. Unable to sign a contract, it took 5 days to expedite the process of applying for a replacement ID card, and the signing was only completed yesterday. I can only be forced to put it on shelves today. To be honest, the grades of this book are really poor. The data is decent, but the collection is extremely low. It is estimated that there is also a high probability that it will hit the streets when it is listed, but I can't help but write it because I don't have money anymore. Even if it's just a few dozen orders, you have to write it down, otherwise you'll really go hungry. As a floating person from Hubei, the author June was confined to a small rental house in Suhui. I open my eyes every day to grab groceries, and then code them all the way until night. Nowadays, the prices of vegetables in the Magic City are so expensive that everyone must have a clear idea. The author is really unable to eat anymore. It's not an exaggeration, it's really such a tragedy. But the author also had a job before and his income was decent. Although temporarily banned, it does not mean that you have completely lost your source of income. Although it is not much, it is still enough for you to spend alone. The reason why I am so embarrassed now is that I am forced and helpless. Everyone knows that when going out, it must be renting a house. After all, the housing prices in Magic City are too magical, and Stone may not be able to afford the down payment in his lifetime. This house is located on an old street in Suhui. On the 3rd floor behind the street, a total of 100 square meters were divided into 4 rooms. Shared by Shirtu and 3 little sisters. The little sister in room 1 was the first boyfriend she talked about during her college years. Last year, I first came to Magic City, after being charged a referral fee of 1,200 yuan by an unscrupulous agent. I found this house with great effort. The agent said there are 3 little sisters living here, and there is only 1 empty room left. At that time, Stone was still happy in his heart, and this peach blossom luck. Immediately clapping the board and waving his hand, he signed the contract, paid the deposit, and settled the house, looking forward to a wonderful shared rental life in the future. However, upon arriving at the place, upon seeing the old and dilapidated community, the staircase corridor, which is less than 1 meter wide, is littered with electrical wires. The meter box is exposed, and there is still a lid hanging in mid-air with a hinge falling off. All sorts of things almost make Stone think he has traveled through. How can there be such a place in the world of demons? But living together with a longing for beauty, the longing for a shared rental life, I have endured all of this. The peeling wooden floor in the room fully exposed its age, with countless stains or a few large footprints mixed in on the painted white walls. In the tiny living room, there was only a sofa with a few holes torn, and countless suspected oil stains on the rough fabric. Walking through the living room, which is only 3 or 4 square meters, is a crowded aisle. The wooden doors of the 4 rooms intersect and face each other, and the innermost room is a stone room, just as the stone was. Silently mourning and regretting the messy room, the sound of the door opening rang out. the stone instinctively turned back and felt as if its energy had solidified in a moment of time and space. Bang! A girl with messy hair looked at me in surprise as the daily necessities she had purchased fell to the ground. A few square-shaped objects with "Do Mouse" written on them are faintly visible. My gaze returned to the girl's face, her slightly messy long hair and sweaty face. Amidst unfamiliarity lies familiarity. I am so familiar with this face. Why are you here? The girl asked nervously. What a coincidence. Stone's heart was full of mixed flavors, and he greeted as calmly as possible. Xiaoshe. Are you here to find me? The girl, however, couldn't hold her tension anymore and rushed over and threw herself into my arms. My waist, with a crying voice and a ruthless expression, was chattering incessantly about something. I was in a daze for a moment and didn't hear it very clearly. It was just something to explain to me I didn't mean to. I awkwardly pushed away the girl, even though she used to be a lover during her college years, but now that we have been apart for several years, our familiar bodies always feel unfamiliar. Calm down first, I'll help you pick up things. I tried my best to push her away, squatted down, and started helping her pick up the items that had fallen on the ground, but then I realized that a black convenience bag was filled with lace uniforms, sex toys, and the square-shaped doos. Hiss, my eyelids twitched. Has this little sister been playing so much now? She seemed to have noticed this too, and her face turned red at a loss. There is a hint of awkwardness in the air. Squeak. Who is it? It's not closing again. What if a thief enters? A crisp female voice with complaints came, and the door opened. Another little sister stood at the door, with 6 eyes facing each other. As soon as she entered, I crouched on the ground, holding lace in my left hand and doos hiss in my right hand. A little sister next to her had a flushed face, sweaty body, and messy hair, embarrassed again in the air. Xiaowen. I looked up and my head exploded, a probing shout. What? The girl inexplicably lowered her head to look at me, and suddenly her body stiffened. Xiaoshe. Xiaowen squatted down in surprise and hugged me tightly. The huge size of 34 ABC almost suffocated me. I held lace in my left hand and do in my right hand, and there was no place to put my hands. She was originally squatting on the ground, but was suddenly thrown off balance by the tall Xiaowen and collapsed on her back. Ah! Xiaowen also exclaimed in surprise. Her hand holding my neck didn't have time to separate. Along with it, it pressed down on me, causing me to only roll my eyes. The back of my head hit the ground hard, making my head turn black. You guys. I'll go back first. The first girl looked at this scene and felt a bit confused. She didn't know what kind of relationship Xiaowen had with me. Seems a bit sober and reluctant. Looking at our intimate scene with a bit of anger, we walked over to pick up the plastic bag on the ground and pulled it, only to find a corner of the bag pressed under us, suddenly torn apart. Everything inside fell out, fragmented Vaseline, black silk with a Balenciaga hang tag, a whole box of Do Mousey, various lace inside. Various functional items fell to the ground, and Xiaowen couldn't help but turn her head to look and be stunned. Yo, did you do it in broad daylight? Or 3 people? At least go to the room. Is this living room so small that it can accommodate the 3 of you? Is the ground dirty and cold? Very stimulating. Just as the 2 women were once again in embarrassment, a mocking voice came through. I don't know when another beautiful woman appeared at the door, and her beautiful eyes looked at the 2 women as if they were surprised. This kind of thing is normal, after all, they are all normal single men and women, but it's rare for 2 women and 1 man to be in the living room. The door is not closed. You want to get on the news, right? A slightly sarcastic voice came, and the beautiful woman glanced at the scattered special items on the ground. The slightly raised corners of the mouth seemed to be mocking, lifting 2 slender thighs over Xiaowen and preparing to return to the room. However, at this moment I lay on my back on the ground. My blackened head had just woken up, and my eyes immediately became straight. If it weren't for my extraordinary experience, I would probably have sprayed out nosebleeds. Little pig. A familiar tattoo caught my eye, and I exclaimed in shock. The beautiful woman trembled all over, holding one leg over my head. the movement of the other leg still at the door, I couldn't believe it. I closed my skirt and lowered my head. Xiaoshi. Xiaoshi, is it really you? The beautiful woman was so excited that she quickly crouched down with her legs closed. However, the living room was just such a large area, and I lay on my back on the ground. The first girl stood on the left at a loss. Xiaowen, who is 1.7 meters tall and plump, weighs 120 pounds and is lying on top of me. The long-legged beauty can only land on the right side, but her stride is too big and she suddenly pulls her leg. With a cry of surprise, my body collapsed and my right foot moved in. Panic, the 10-centimeter long high heel stomped on my leg like a knife. Ah! I let out a scream, as if I didn't even feel the pain in the back of my head. So, Xiaolin is your first love, Xiaowen is your ex. In the room, the little pig picked up the last pile of garbage and asked meaningfully, so, how many times am I with you? Watching the danger flickering in little pig's eyes, I couldn't help but shiver. The wound on the wrapped thigh is still tingling faintly. You are my current one. I licked my face and smiled. Now it has fallen into the hands of this female demon head, and I must touch it with my hair. Looking at the satisfied expression on the little pig's face, I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. This demon I will definitely move out as soon as my injury is healed. What are you thinking? Hurry up and start coding. Xiaolin slapped over, we can't go out. Without a job, our big family is counting on you to support us. Xiaowen caressed the place where I was beaten with heartache. Be gentle, if you break it, we won't be able to use it. Hee, hurry up and make sure that old Wang next door is almost on the leaderboard. You're still a street thug. The little pig walked over and handed a cup of goji berry tea, sneering, our sisters can't even afford rubber in such an afternoon. I couldn't help but burst into tears, as they seemed to have anticipated my prediction. Every time my legs heal and I'm ready to move and escape from them, there will always be another accident. These three demons kept me tightly by my side, even moving into my bed for the convenience of watching me. Only when I become a big shot can I be free. So, my dear brothers, I beg everyone, contribute a first order to stone. It's really unbearable to continue like this. 3 years, 3 whole years. Do you know how Poker Street has been going through these 3 years? 3 little sisters, even stones can't stand it. Even an iron pestle can be ground into a needle, let alone a stone. Therefore, kneeling down to all readers, Dad, for a small initial order, as long as the initial order is made, a chapter of 3,000 words will only cost a few cents, but for the author, it is a great encouragement. The author hereby promises that as long as the initial order can exceed 500, listing guarantees explosive updates, with a minimum of 40,000 words. The first order can break 700. The stone directly broke its leg, opened its eyes, closed its eyes, slept, ate, drank, and played on the bed. Breaking 1,000. This is an unattainable dream, but one must have some dreams in life, otherwise what is the difference between being a person and a salted fish? I, the author, have a duplicate pen name and hereby swear that, if the first order of this book exceeds 1,000, I will never stop and never end. Whether it's the end of the world or the dusk of the gods, the head can break, blood can flow, and the code cannot stop. If you break this oath, let the stone be ground into a needle. Feilu's novel, Fei wants you to look good. Adhere to originality and eliminate non-compliant commitment letters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Adhere to originality and eliminate non-compliant commitment letters. I, the author, have a duplicate pen name and guarantee that the signed work belongs to my own original work. I will strictly follow the Feilu Writers' Convention during the creation process, adhere to originality, and eliminate the following violations. If there are any violations, I am willing to bear all consequences arising from this one. Ensure that the signed work belongs to one's own original work and does not involve plagiarism or plot plagiarism in Chinese translation. 2. Ensure that no third-party works or plot are plagiarized during the creative process. 3. Ensure that this work is first published and the only contracted website on Feilu Novel Network 3. Ensure compliance with laws and regulations during the creative process, including but not limited to, violations such as not involving politics, not involving pornography, gambling, drugs, promoting cults, not ghostwriting, not blocking or abolishing manuscripts, not hosting, not selling works or accounts, etc. 4. Ensure that regardless of the word count of the work, the signed work must complete the plot, never end, and adhere to originality. 3 things to do when reading. Read, collect, and reward. Chapter 1. All Categories of Undead Lords. SSS Level Talent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Good wishes. Let's cheer together. Take care of everyone, see you in a week. Try to live as much as possible. Ajay. Be sure to pay attention to safety. Swallow, hold this entry. Level unit card and make sure to cheer. In the central square of the ancient city, a group of young girls bid farewell to each other and wish each other well. Moreover, Licking Dog took advantage of the last moment to hand over a military card that he had painstakingly purchased to his desired woman, only for the assurance that the other party can pass by a few more points. Finally, it's this day. Lin Xiu stood in the halo of the 6-pointed star, scanning everything around him and couldn't help but feel a surge in his heart, the extraordinary power of the Lord, so close to him. Although everyone in this world is extraordinary and powerful, it still excites him as a traveler who is about to become a lord. Lin Xiu. Be careful. A crisp voice came from beside her, and cold Shuyao pursed her lips. It seems like there are thousands of words, but in the end, they can only be reduced to these 2 words. You too, see you in a week. Lin Xiu's heart warmed and he smiled slightly at the girl, saying. Without giving them too much time to say goodbye, the hexagram teleportation suddenly lit up with a light blue light. In the next second, all the apprentice lords in the entire ancient city will disappear at the same time. Another lord trial has begun. I wonder how many successful ones can be. Hey. I don't expect much success, I just hope the mortality rate can be reduced a bit. Such a good child, don't deserve to be on that damn battlefield. Humph, from a woman's perspective. No matter how high the mortality rate is, as long as we can achieve more lords, everything is worth it. Otherwise, the war will sooner or later burn to our blue star. That's the case, but... Hey. I hope these children can become a high-level lord. After the disappearance of the young girls in the ancient city, all the onlookers wore heavy expressions on their faces. Some people have expressions of pain and regret on their faces. As apprentice lords who were eliminated on the battlefield in the past, they have seen such scenes too many times. Every time, thousands of young girls set off with a strong and spirited spirit, but they can return in a week, often less than half of it. The annual Lord Trial ceremony is the beginning of a new Lord's journey towards the Sea of Stars, embarking on a transcendent path, but for them, it was a life and death farewell. The heavy atmosphere gathered in the ancient city, which will continue until the young lords return in a week. Only fresh and strong individuals can dilute this solemn atmosphere. Welcome to the 5th trial zone. Sai Cemetery. Before the eyes could open, the mechanical warning sound had already sounded. Upon hearing this name, Lin Xiu's heart suddenly froze. The one with the cemetery was obviously related to death. Judging the level of danger in the environment from the name of the trial map is a mandatory course for novice lords. Awakening First Class Branch. Skull Warrior, congratulations. Awakening the summoning of the undead. Before Lin Xiu could fully descend, a withered and slightly putrid smell rushed into his nostrils. At the same time, his initial army and lord types have also awakened. There seems to be something extra inside the body, but upon careful experience, there seems to be no difference. Is it the Lord of the Undead? Lin Xiu's heart twitched. Not surprising, the place of trial, in other words, is itself a place for enlightenment for all lords. Most types of troops and lord skills awakened here will not surpass the characteristics of the land of descent. Sighing at the cemetery, it sounds like it's related to death. If the guess is correct, it is estimated that all the newcomers who descend here are related to the undead. Buzz. A muffled sound seemed to come from a distant horizon, and it seemed to resonate deeply in people's hearts. Lin Xiu's feet suddenly felt a sense of steadfastness, and his control over his body was restored. He can only open his eyes now. Empty silence. Withering. Broken. Opening his eyes, Lin Xiu couldn't think of any other words to describe the environment that caught his eye. The scorched black land has no third color besides gray and black. The oppressive environment. If ordinary people from previous lives come here, I'm afraid I'll go crazy in less than 3 days. However, for novice lords like them who look forward to embarking on the path of lords and mastering extraordinary powers, but it's not unacceptable either. Undead Lord. Let's first see what type it is. Lin Xiu didn't think much, and after a brief inspection that there was no danger around, he eagerly opened his lord panel. The undead has always been a huge branch. It contains countless races, down to the skeleton lords who walk and fall apart, ghost lords who are immune to physical attacks, and undead bone dragons who are high enough to rival angels, dragons, and so on, all within the realm of the Undead Lord. Therefore, as the same Undead Lord, but the difference in strength can be described as a huge difference. ID, Lin Xiu, Apprentice Lord. Undead Lord, Main Unit. Undead Summoning, consuming a certain amount of mana can recruit corresponding all types of undead units on the bones. Initial skill. Skeleton Warrior Recruitment Technique, consumes 5 mana to recruit 2 skeleton warriors from a corpse. Command. 10 life. 20 mana. 20 branch. None talent. 2-in-1 SSS level. Can synthesize any of the same types of troops, and combine 2 to form a higher level of the same type of troops. All categories of undead lords. Lin Xiu looked at it and suddenly widened his eyes, both surprised and delighted. Ordinary undead lords can usually only recruit one type of unit, such as the Skull Lord, who can only recruit the Skull type of unit. The Ghost Lord can only recruit the Ghost type of troops, while the Dead Lord can only recruit such undead types as witches and zombies. Occasionally, those with extraordinary talents can obtain various types of recruitment techniques, such as recruiting skeletons and ghosts at the same time. Even 3 or 4 types, generally speaking, belong to extraordinary qualifications, and in the future, relying on the cooperation of multiple branches will have far greater strength than a single branch lord. However, all types of lords, this is simply beyond imagination, let alone seeing it. I've never heard of it before. One of the 10 heavenly sovereigns, Tianzun, is the lord of the undead, but it is said that he only has 16 recruitment techniques for the undead. Lin Xiu was pleasantly surprised. Although it was just a branch of the undead, but it contains at least 50 or 60 types of troops, and what all categories mean is simply too exaggerated. Talent. SSS level. Sleeping Slot. Surprisingly, there is also an SSS level talent. Lin Xiu continued to look down, and when he saw the last column, even more so, my eyeballs almost protruded, and my whole body trembled with excitement. SSS level talent can be said to be the highest level talent. If the number of types of lords cannot directly determine their strength and future development potential, then talent is bound to determine the upper limit of a lord's strength. SSS level talent, the entire blue star may not be able to produce one in 10 years, the last appearance was a lord 13 years ago, and now he is one of the 12 heavenly kings who have arrived at the divine realm. Those who belong to the human race and have strong top beams and pillars are said to be the candidate for the Holy Lord of Nightmare Temple, one of the 3 major temples of the human race. Sleeping Slot. Scent. Lin Xiu giggled foolishly, with only this thought remaining in his mind. P.S. The new book sets sail. At present, 100,000 words of manuscripts are saved to ensure that they are updated. Awesome. Kneeling down and begging for flowers to evaluate tickets, all monthly tickets smashed over. The author of the National Series of Ashes, we guarantee that everyone will enjoy and watch enough. The better the data, the more awesome the author updates. At present, it is guaranteed to update at least 20,000 words every day. Feilu's novel, Fei Wants You to Look Good. Chapter 2. Synthesis. A Strong Skeleton Warrior. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Unrestricted 2-in-1. It's a perfect match with the Undead Lord. No wonder Lin Xiu is so excited. This talent is simply perfect for him. The Undead clan has a powerful army, even the weakest Skull Lord, although he was only the lowest level first level Skull Warrior in the early stage, but to a certain extent, it is also possible to recruit Skeleton Knights who are not weaker than 5th level troops and Skeleton Kings who are comparable to 7th level troops, even in the later stage. There is a Dark Soul Emperor who is even stronger than the 10th level troops. However, it is extremely difficult to develop into the later stage, and less than 1 out of 10,000 Skull Lords may be able to develop into the later stage. The Undead Lord here has no mention of the so-called natural disasters that Lin Xiu had read in novels or movies in his previous life, because there is another attribute that constrains the Lord's strength, which is command power. This is the core attribute of each Lord, equivalent to the maximum number of troops that can be controlled simultaneously. With this attribute constraint, natural disaster routes may still be developed in the later stage, but don't even think about it in the early stages. In this way, it is difficult for lords of lower-level units to develop in the early stages, even the majority have died in endless competition before they have even developed. In this world, lords are not as simple as imagined, you only need brainless troops to be invincible, but you also value the individual strength of the troops more. With unlimited synthesis talent, he can completely synthesize troops crazily, develop infinitely powerful individuals within limited commanding power. 2-in-1. Even if the initial skill is a first-level skeleton warrior recruitment technique, as long as there are enough skeleton warriors, it is possible to directly recruit a Dark Soul Emperor. Lin Xiu murmured to himself, overjoyed, this talent is worthy of SSS-level talent, and its strength can be considered incredible. First recruit a few branches of the army to try. Find the bones. Lin Xiu couldn't wait to test the power of his talent, so he closed the attribute panel and looked around, sighing at the cemetery. As the name suggests, the most indispensable thing here is undoubtedly the bones. It is a paradise for all Undead Lords. In no time, Lin Xiu discovered an incomplete corpse with half a piece of bone residue leaking out of the ground. The incomplete bones do not show their true appearance, and the bones turn white, and even a slight touch can cause some debris. Lin Xiu didn't even dare to take a deep breath, afraid of blowing the bone loose. Skull Warrior. Recruitment Technique. Ignoring the poor quality, Lin Xiu cautiously walked to the side of the corpse and activated the only skill he currently knew. Suddenly, something seemed to have been drained from his body, and a gray light emitted from his hand and landed on the gray-white bones. Click. Subsequently, in Lin Xiu's expectant gaze, the white ashes rubbed and fell, revealing a gray skeleton covered in cracks. The bones wriggled out from the ground, and one by one, they formed 2 half-meter-tall humanoid skeletons. Click. Click. 2 short skeleton warriors walked step by step to Lin Xiu's face, with a gray soul fire as small as a grain of rice flickering in the hollow skull. Success. Lin Xiu was overjoyed, although these 2 skeletons looked a bit weak and uncontrollable, but it also belongs to his first true mastery of extraordinary power. For people in this world, the feeling may not be so strong, but as a traveler, he, who is accustomed to ordinary people, has a different feeling. View properties. Lin Xiu suppressed his excitement and eagerly opened the attribute panel of the Skull Warrior. Skull Warrior LV1, Weak First Order, Life. 8, Attack. 5, Defense. 1, Skill. None, Buff. Dropping, lose 1 HP every 5 seconds, Introduction. Skeleton warriors summon from ordinary corpses that have been dead for an unknown number of years, as if walking a few more steps will cause them to fall apart. Damn it. Lin Xiu was completely speechless. How could these two skeleton warriors be so miserable? The 5 scumbags in the battle all look up to them, and Nima also comes with a health loss buff. If you don't care, if you can't hold on for even a minute, these two goods will have to be played. Even his level has broadened his horizons, and Nima is still 1 level weaker. The life of a regular first level unit should be around 20, and the most powerful can have up to 50. Surprisingly, this product is only available at 8 o'clock. The attack and defense are generally around 10, with a maximum of 20. This product only has 5, and its defense is even lower, which is outrageous, only a pitiful 1 point. How can other skeleton lords survive like this? Fortunately, I have talent. Lin Xiu silently mourned for 3 seconds for the other skeleton lords in his heart, watching as the ashes on the chest bones of these two goods rustled. Life fell directly to 7 o'clock, and I didn't dare to neglect it, directly activated the talent. 2 in 1. Synthesis. Lin Xiu let out a low cry in his heart, and 2 grey vortices appeared in front of him. Blessed to the soul, Lin Xiu moved his heart and directly placed the 2 skeleton warriors into the windows. Buzz. The vortex suddenly spun rapidly and gradually approached, melting into a vortex 3 seconds later. Synthesis successful, obtained. Strong skeleton warrior *1, the vortex disappeared, and the 2 skeleton warriors in place also disappeared. Instead, there is a brand new skull about 60 centimeters high. It's not very tall, but compared to the 2 previous 5 scumbags, at least the new skeleton warrior won't fall into pieces anymore. The ribs on the chest are also visibly thicker, and every part of the body is obviously much stronger. It looks like there's finally a hint of security. Strong Skull Warrior LV1, First Order, Life. 15, Attack. 8, Defense. 5, Skill. None, Buff. Blessing from the Dark Soul Emperor, restores 1 HP per second when not in combat mode. Introduction. Skeleton warriors summoned from ordinary corpses that have died for an unknown number of years, with negligible combat power. Looking at the attributes of the new skeleton warrior, Lin Xiu wiped the sweat off his forehead. Slightly stronger than the previous skeleton warriors, but still has not reached the strength of a normal first-level unit. The undead army's strength relies too much on the strength in front of the corpse. Lin Xiu muttered to himself that the undead clan was recruited from dead corpses. It is said that if high-level creatures die and are obtained by the Undead Lord, using the skeleton recruitment technique can even directly recruit the Dark Soul Emperor. However, the requirements for corpses are very high, and their strength during their lifetime is one aspect. The time of death is also very important. If you die for thousands of years, you will lose all the essence even if your strength is against the weather. It's not uncommon for a demigod's corpse to recruit an ordinary skeleton warrior. But it doesn't matter, as long as I have enough skeletons, I can synthesize high-level troops. Lin Xiu was not disappointed. Thinking of his talent, his spirit was once again shaken. Looking up ahead, we began to search for new bones. Kneeling down for all data, free flower evaluation, vote for 1 vote, for those who have monthly tickets, giving them a monthly pass and having nothing to support in the comments section is also the author's greatest motivation. The minimum daily guarantee is 20,000 words, and the better the data, the more and more, enough awesome to release 100,000 words a day. Feilu's novel, Fei wants you to look good. Chapter 3. Strong First Order Elite Skull Warrior. Surprisingly, 100-meter giant bone appeared. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Sighing Cemetery, as the name suggests, this is a paradise for the dead. The bones are not difficult to find. At the very least, the decaying bones are not difficult to find. Not far away, Lin Xiu found another corpse of similar quality as the first one. The gentle breeze blew over, carrying scattered ashes in the air. Only a piece of unnamed bone with a diameter of 10 centimeters was left on the ground. Although it has already decayed and is about to disappear, it can also be seen from its size that it was probably a giant beast during its lifetime. Skull. Recruitment technique. Lin Xiu didn't think much and directly activated the only recruitment technique. After a moment, 2 freshly baked skeleton soldiers stood up trembling from the ground. Perhaps the source of the bones is different. Although these 2 skeleton warriors still looked disheveled when walking, but its body size is 1 point taller than the synthesized skeleton warrior, reaching a height of 70 centimeters. Skull Warrior LV1, weak First Order, life. 12, attack. 7, defense. 3, skill. None, buff. Drops, loses 1 HP every 5 seconds, introduction. Skeleton warriors summon from ordinary corpses that have been dead for an unknown number of years, as if walking a few more steps will cause them to fall apart. Surprisingly, it's still 1 level weaker. Lin Xiu was slightly disappointed. These 2 skeleton warriors seemed much taller. I thought my strength would be much stronger, but I didn't expect it to still be the weakest level. 2-in-1, synthesis. But it's okay, even the smallest mosquito is still meat. Lin Xiu was not disappointed either. With a sudden movement of his mind, he directly activated the 2-in-1 talent. 3 seconds later, the 2 trembling skeleton warriors merged into an even taller skeleton warrior. Strong Skull Warrior LV1, First Order, life. 22, attack. 11, defense. 7, skill. None, buff. Blessing from the Dark Soul Emperor, restores 1 HP per second when not in combat mode. Introduction. Slightly strong skeleton warrior with certain strength. Finally, you look like that. Lin Xiu looked at the newly synthesized skeleton warrior and felt delighted. This is the attribute that a normal first-level unit should have. Due to the extraordinary power of the bone from which it comes, this freshly baked skeleton warrior looks much taller than the previous one. The body is about 1 meter tall, and the bones that make up the whole body are much thicker. There seems to be a sense of heaviness that makes people feel at ease, which has greatly increased his sense of security. Continue, synthesize. Lin Xiu was not satisfied with this, but eagerly activated the synthesis talent again, put 2 strong skeleton warriors into the synthesis column. Buzz. The 2 vortices are spinning wildly again, and this time it will take a little longer. 5 seconds passed before the synthesis ended, and the 2 strong skeleton warriors disappeared. The one that appeared in place instead was about 1.2 meters tall, a strong skeleton with grayish-white bones and sharp spikes all over. The soul fire in the head has also become the size of a soybean, giving it a somewhat sinister appearance. Elite Skull Warrior LV1 Strong Level 1, Life. 30, Attack. 21, Defense. 16, Skill. Spike Shell, Passive Skill. Has a certain chance to counterattack enemies with 10% damage when attacked. Buff. Blessing from the Dark Soul Emperor, restores 1 HP per second when not in combat mode. Introduction. Elite among Skull Warriors, possessing certain strength. I'm 1 level stronger. Lin Xiu was overjoyed in his heart. Indeed, his hard work did not disappoint those who had the heart. After his unremitting efforts, he finally succeeded in transforming the 5th scumbag into a strong first-level unit. And it also comes with a skill. Although there are no useless junk skills, the stronger troops can finally be seen in 3 dimensions. He is no longer a garbage object that falls off when walking, but his sturdy bones provide him with an extraordinary safety experience. Continuing, will another synthesis directly evolve into a 2nd-level unit? Lin Xiu was full of energy and couldn't help but yearn. With freshly crafted elite skeleton warriors, Lin Xiu embarked on a new journey. In this sighing cemetery, it is unknown how many lifeless corpses have been buried in ancient history. Not far away, I met another corpse, which looked much more complete. It is a decayed corpse of a reptile, which looks about 3 meters long from the bones. I don't know what animal it is. Recruitment technique for skeleton warriors. Lin Xiu didn't think much and directly activated the skill. The next second, 2 more skeleton warriors crawled out of the ground and stood in front of Lin Xiu. Skull Warrior LV1, Weak First Order, Life. 15, Attack. 8. Defense. 5. Skill. None. Introduction. Skeleton warriors summon from ordinary corpses that have been dead for an unknown number of years, as if walking a few more steps will cause them to fall apart. It seems that this corpse is relatively intact and not as thoroughly weathered. The recruited skeleton warriors, although still at a weaker level, have much stronger attributes than those that have fallen. I don't even have the broken buff anymore. Lin Xiu didn't rush to synthesize, but continued walking forward with 3 skeletons. I plan to recruit more and then combine them together. Soon, the 4th corpse came into view. The only difference is that this corpse looks much taller. This is... What kind of ferocious beast's corpse is this? Lin Xiu looked at the scene ahead in shock, and could easily see a corpse lying on the ground even hundreds of meters away. I don't know how many bodies are buried underground, and the parts exposed to the ground are as high as 10 meters. The body with only bones left has no breath, but it is terrifying. The massive bone is just an ivory-like bone that stands tall like sharp fangs, usually over 3 meters long. The long years seem to have not left too many traces on it, not to mention weathering and debris. Even the radiance on the bones has not dissipated much, and when viewed from hundreds of meters apart, the faint fluorescence on the bones can still be clearly seen. The huge bones are like white jade, quietly inserted into the barren land. The more powerful a creature is, the stronger its body. It is said that after the death of a deity, it can even maintain its body for thousands of years without decay. Lin Xiu looked at the distant scene in shock and murmured to himself. The knowledge learned in school came to mind. The energy in powerful creatures' bones also becomes stronger, and the stronger the creatures, the shorter the death time, and the stronger the undead that can be recruited. The most common recruitment technique for skeleton warriors can even directly recruit the Dark Soul Emperor. Lin Xiu was excited and the ground turned red. In the eyes of the Undead Lord, the body of any powerful person is undoubtedly the most precious resource. Legend has it that there was once a Undead Lord of a single unit, who was lucky enough to encounter a recently fallen demigod corpse, recruited a semi-god level necromancer directly from it, and from then on, their unstoppable strength skyrocketed and their reputation spread throughout the world. The huge corpse in front of me may not be as powerful, but for a novice Undead Lord, still a precious and unimaginable treasure. Not to mention the Dark Soul Emperor. Recruiting a 5th-level skeleton knight is definitely not a problem. Lin Xiu muttered excitedly to himself, feeling like he was really going to post. 3 things to do when reading. Read, collect, and reward. Chapter 4. Guarding the Fierce Beast White Jade Skull. Synthesize 1st-level units with strong attributes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lin Xiu walked up excitedly, but before he could get closer, his face couldn't help but change. A dangerous feeling emerged in my heart, as if being locked by a venomous snake, make him stiff all over and sweat profusely. Not good. There's a guardian beast. Lin Xiu's heart trembled as he suddenly remembered a statement, beside any treasure, there must be fierce beasts guarding it. In the paradise of the dead, there are not only recruitment resources that can be seen everywhere, there are countless undead beings born. These undead spirits are the enemies of every apprentice lord, but at the same time, it is also an important resource for lords to upgrade and enhance their strength. Lin Xiu was stiff all over, with beads of sweat dripping down his forehead. Beside such precious resources, the strength of the guarded ferocious beasts is bound to exceed imagination. It's definitely not something he can challenge as a novice apprentice lord. I am currently locked in, and a negligence may have to be explained here today. Lin Xiu remained motionless, his eyes searching frantically. Finally, we found the enemy's trace in the crevice beneath the massive skull. A skeleton covered in white jade, holding a bone knife in its hand. Amidst the massive bones, the concealment is extremely high. At this moment, a pale yellow soul fire flickers in the head, about the size of a fist. 2 hollow eyes were staring fixedly at Lin Xiu, but fortunately, it seems that it is also greedy for the essence of giant bones, and it did not break out until Lin Xiu did not take further action. After a while, Lin Xiu felt a slight decrease in the feeling of being locked in. The white jade skull no longer looked at him but turned its head to do its own thing. White jade skull. At least level 3 or higher. Lin Xiu breathed a sigh of relief in his heart and couldn't help wiping the cold sweat off his forehead, murmuring to oneself in my heart. A third order ferocious beast, although only 2 orders higher than his troops, its strength is more than 10 times stronger. Once an attack is really launched on him, his elite skeleton warriors may face each other in seconds, whether one can run away or not is unknown. But fortunately, perhaps it's also because his strength is too weak, not being seen as a threat by the white jade skull, I managed to escape the disaster. Giant bones. Those exposed to the ground are all 10 meters high, maybe this is still a 100-meter giant bone. Lin Xiu took a few steps back and completely left the lock of the white jade skull, watching the giant bone in the distance give up like this and feel unwilling. This kind of giant bone is definitely an incredible treasure for the Undead Lord. I'm afraid the entire trial site won't encounter any stronger treasures, so I'll give up like this. After leaving, I'm afraid my intestines will be regretful. But the third order white jade skeleton, I'm definitely not a match right now. Isn't it just a third order? At best, it can be synthesized a few more times. Lin Xiu reluctantly glanced at the white jade skeleton in the distance and gritted his teeth secretly. If it's not a big deal, I'll synthesize a 3rd or even 4th level unit and then kill him. There is a 2-in-1 talent. As long as there are enough bone resources, he is confident that he will be able to synthesize a powerful unit and then deal with it again. If we can grab this huge bone, then we really have it. After taking a final glance at the huge bone, Lin Xiu reluctantly turned around and left, but he didn't go far either. He just kept his huge bones within sight, searched for other bones nearby. There aren't many precious resources like giant bones encountered, but there shouldn't be too many other ordinary bones. Soon, Lin Xiu encountered another fallen corpse and was too lazy to observe what species it was, directly activated the skeleton recruitment technique, and the next second, 2 fallen skeleton warriors were freshly released. Finally, Lin Xiu gathered the materials for the second synthesis and stopped to activate the 2-in-1 talent, for skeleton warriors combined to form 2 strong skeleton warriors, and 2 strong skeleton warriors combined to form 1 elite skeleton warrior. Elite Skull Warrior, Synthesis. Lin Xiu looked at 2 elite skeleton warriors, 1 tall and 1 short, and felt a slight joy in his heart. Without hesitation, they were once again placed in the synthesis column. 5 seconds later, the vortex disappeared, a brand new skull appeared before my eyes. Obtain a powerful skeleton warrior *1, mighty skull warrior LV1, strong level 1, life. 50, attack. 30, defense. 25, skill. Critical strike. A critical strike that has a certain chance of causing twice the damage to the enemy during an attack, buff. Blessing from the Dark Soul Emperor, restores 2 health points per second when not in combat mode, introduction. One of the strongest among all the Skull Warriors, possessing a strong physique and extraordinary fighter skills, still 1 level stronger. Lin Xiu was slightly disappointed. He thought that after combining 2 strong first-level skeleton warriors, they should be able to become second level. I didn't expect to be 1 level stronger. However, after looking at its attributes, he was delighted again. The attributes of this skeleton warrior had reached the limit of the first level, all 3 dimensions are at full value, and the accompanying skills are much more practical than the previously useless spike shell. The buff effect has also doubled, and after the battle, it only takes less than half a minute to fully recover health. The introduction also seems to indicate its extraordinary combat power. If you do it again, you will definitely be promoted to second level. Lin Xiu was overjoyed, and it had been less than half an hour since he entered the trial site. I have already harvested such a strong person, and for him, the progress has exceeded expectations. At this moment, he just wants to quickly synthesize another powerful skeleton warrior, and then witness the birth of a second-order unit with 2 synthesized ones. Skeleton Warriors, Recruitment Skills. Lin Xiu couldn't wait to find another corpse and activate the recruitment technique for skeleton warriors. However, this time my body was weak and almost fell, feeling as if my body had been hollowed out. Recruitment technique also failed to activate. No more power. Lin Xiu finally remembered that recruiting troops is not unlimited. Every recruitment requires the consumption of mana, and as an apprentice lord, his mana is only 20 points, and each recruitment requires 5 points of mana to be consumed. The 4 recruitment attempts have exhausted his mana. Unfortunately, Lin Xiu was slightly regretful. There are 3 ways to restore mana. The first is to use magic potions, but these potions are incredibly precious. Of course, it is not something that a novice lord can obtain, and even if he does, he is reluctant to use it to restore his mana. The second type is the state recovery brought by breakthrough, where each breakthrough will directly fill the state. It cannot be used as a routine means. The third type is suitable for all ages. Natural recovery is necessary when in a resting state, and the speed is not too slow. If you rest in place, you will recover slightly in about a minute, and there are also many equipment items that will increase your recovery speed. Lin Xiu had no choice but to sit on the ground and wait for his mana to naturally recover. Fortunately, the maximum mana limit of the apprentice lord is only 20 points, and taking a 20-minute break can fully restore it. Recruit 4 more times, and 8 skeleton warriors will be able to synthesize another powerful skeleton warrior. Look at others' progress. Being idle and bored, Lin Xiu suddenly opened the Warzone chat channel. As soon as I opened it, I saw countless cries filling the entire channel. Help! This Nima trial is also too difficult, the weaker group of the 5 scum skull warriors. Nima. What kind of ghost are 8 skeleton warriors who can't defeat first-level monsters? Fu. How can I break through Nima being chased by a small skeleton with a knife? I'm in a hurry to wait online. The new book has been released, begging for all the data. Every data is the driving force for the author to move forward. Request for flower evaluation tickets, monthly reviews. 3 things to do when reading. Read, collect, and reward. Chapter 5. Hell difficulty. Second level unit skeleton guards. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The chat channel startled Lin Xiu at first glance. The situation of countless people is unbearable, with cries for help everywhere. Among them, the most common one is the curse of the Skull Lord, who roast about the garbage attribute in combat power of the 5 scum skull warriors. The chat channel is divided by region, and all the speeches that Lin Xiu can see are from the same area as him. Sighing at the cemetery, that is to say, everyone is a Undead Lord, among which the skeleton is the largest branch of the undead. It even occupies 70% of the quota. And the first skill mastered by the Skull-type Lord. Obviously, they all use the same recruitment technique for skeleton warriors. This type of recruitment requires a high level of quality from the target audience. In the Sai Cemetery, most of the recruits are obviously no different from Lin Xiu. The scumbag skeleton feels like Lin Xiu's eyes are burning when he thinks about it. Now it can be imagined that other lords are howling. Not only did some people roast that they had recruited 8 skeleton soldiers, but they found that they could not defeat an ordinary first-order beast. Some unlucky ones even played team destruction, and I don't know what they did. They were chased by first-order ferocious beasts, leaving them with no way to heaven or earth. That's a tragedy. More often than not, they quickly retreated when the situation was unfavorable, but the outcome was not much better than others. Because the fallen skull has a negative buff, it loses some health every 5 seconds. That is to say, the scumbag skeleton doesn't need to fight, it only takes 40 seconds to kill itself. This opening is simply hellish difficulty with no solution. Lin Xiu put himself in his shoes and couldn't help but shudder inwardly. He didn't even feel the difficulty of the trial when he synthesized a first-level full attribute unit, but now that there was a comparison, he suddenly felt the difficulty of the trial. No wonder the annual survival rate of the trial lord is less than 50%, and many of the remaining 50% have been eliminated and survived by chance. Only 3 out of 10 can truly become lords. To successfully get through the beginner phase, one must either be lucky enough to encounter a corpse that is not so bad and does not have a guardian beast. Recruit unswerving skeleton warriors, then gather a small number of troops to fully command and level up by killing monsters. Either, there is an extraordinary talent that can help skeleton warriors improve their combat power by several levels. Lin Xiu murmured and couldn't help but shake his head after thinking from a different perspective. Both of these require good luck, and in comparison, the first method is more reliable. As long as you search more, you can always find bones that are not so inferior. Just at this time it depends on one's own destiny. However, not everyone is howling. Given the vast population base, lucky people are never lacking. Hahaha, a bunch of scumbags. My initial soldier was a 4th level unit, the Death Knight. Killing a 1st level ferocious beast was like chopping melons and vegetables, and now I have risen to level 8. Hehe, the Death Knight is a loser. I will tell you that my initial unit is a 5th level flame bone bow. Ranged flame damage, harmless leveling is not a dream. They're all garbage. The rare unit is the 8th level ice bone dragon. It can fly, sleeping slot. Big shot 666, big shot begging for guidance. Can Brother Gu Long take me with you? I am the school flower of Bingyuan City College. As long as you take me, you can do whatever you want when you go out. Get rough upstairs. I'm the school flower of Icefield City, dare you impersonate me? Please take me with you, big brother. My father is the Golden Lord. If you go out, you will receive a heavy thank you. In the chat channel, someone shared their military unit. Among them, there are various advanced units, which are familiar and enviable. Many people, disregarding their integrity, directly kneel down to seek the help of the big shots and even offer various outrageous conditions. Nima. This is the son of fate. Lin Xiu looked at the attributes of the cold ice bone dragon with envy, and his saliva almost came down. The initial unit of the 7th level has incredibly powerful attributes. The basic attributes of the 1st level are all close to thousands, which is simply outrageous. Upgrading casually can increase exponentially, and the strength is far beyond the comparison of lower-level troops. I don't know how efficient I am in killing monsters as a skeleton. Seeing that so many people roast that it was difficult to kill ferocious animals, Lin Xiu also felt itchy. Fierce beasts are very common in the testing ground, and sighing, various undead monsters are everywhere in the cemetery. He has seen many of them in the past half hour, but he was only focused on synthesizing skeletons without considering killing monsters. When encountering ferocious beasts, they always walk around, and first-order ferocious beasts do not have a strong sense of territory. As long as they don't take the initiative to deliver it to their door, they won't chase after anyone to chop it off. Forget it, it's better to recruit troops first and then synthesize. There's no need to rush to kill monsters. After thinking about it, Lin Xiu still chose to give up. After all, improving strength is the most important thing. Others kill monsters because their command power is limited. If they recruit a full number of troops, they can only improve their strength by upgrading to kill monsters. I don't have this concern myself, it's completely unnecessary. As long as you constantly recruit and synthesize, and then kill monsters when you have synthesized a 4th level unit, then Lin Xiu looked up into the distance, and the huge bone was crawling on the barren land like a prehistoric beast. That's the treasure he's been longing for. Grinding the knife won't delay the woodcutter, continue recruiting. Lin Xiu sat cross-legged on the ground to rest and gradually formulated his own development plan while his mana was recovering. In the early stages, the initial strength of the troops was insufficient, so naturally they couldn't compare to those lucky guys who only started with 5th or 6th level troops. However, when one's own strength accumulates, they will inevitably be the first to arrive later. The speed of strength improvement will far exceed their imagination. The trial lasts for a week, there's no need to rush for a moment. 20 minutes have passed, and the mana has finally been fully restored. Lin Xiu's spirit suddenly lifted. He closed the chat channel and stood up. The powerful skeleton warrior followed Lin Xiu step by step like a loyal servant, walking towards the depths of the sighing cemetery. Skull Warrior, plus, Skull Warrior, sad face Strong Skull Warrior, plus, Strong Skull Warrior, sad face Elite Skull Warrior plus Elite Skull Warrior equals Strong Skull Warrior. You can recruit 2 skeletons at once, and 20 mana points can recruit 4 times. There are a total of 8 skeleton warriors, which can be combined 7 times. The second powerful skeleton warrior is freshly released. The attributes are exactly the same as the first one. They have reached the limit of the first level of arms. Strong Skeleton Warrior, Synthesis. Lin Xiu rubbed his hands excitedly and couldn't wait to start the 15th synthesis. Obtained. Skull Guard *1, Skull Guard. Second level unit. The pleasant prompt sound came, and Lin Xiu was immediately pleasantly surprised. I eagerly opened the attribute bar of the Skull Guard. Skull Guard LV1, weak second. Order, life. 70, attack. 40, defense. 35, skill. Critical strike, there is a certain chance to deal 250% damage to enemies during attacks, buff. Blessing from the Dark Soul Emperor, restores 5 health points per second when not in combat mode, introduction. Advanced Powerhouse of the Skull Clan, possessing impressive strength. What poor data kneeling down to ask for flower evaluations and monthly ticket reviews, today's 30,000 word update. Feilu's novel, Fei wants you to look good. Chapter 6. Crazy Synthesis. Strong Second Order Branch. Strong Skull Guard. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Weak Second Order. That's pretty good too. Lin Xiu happily looked at the newly produced second-level units, which were vastly different from the original 5 scumbags. Unfortunately, it turns out to be a weak second. Order life has only 70 points. Not bad either. Anyway, it can be considered a second-level unit, already surpassing countless people. Lin Xiu looked at the only unit in front of him with satisfaction. With a height of 1.2 meters, the sturdy bones look like there's no need to worry about falling off at any time, and the soul fire in the hollow head has once again increased in a circle. It's about the size of a laurel garden, with a light yellow soul fire shining and looking a bit penetrating. In the bones of the hand, there is no longer an empty fist, but an additional bone blade with the same color as its bones. The blade is a bit blunt, but it's better than nothing. Now that you're chopping down the first-level ferocious beast. Shouldn't there be any problem? Lin Xiu glanced at a wandering skeleton in the distance and murmured to himself, after comparing the body types of the two casually, I feel that there shouldn't be any problem, at least they have some self-protection power. Not enough. Continue recruiting. Lin Xiu didn't rush to kill monsters and level up, but sat on the ground and continued to rest. When the mana is depleted once, you can recruit 8 skeletons and synthesize a first-order skeleton with full attributes. 2 times, you can synthesize a weak second-order skeleton. Recruiting 2 more times will give the Skull Guard another synthesis. I don't know how many times the Skull Guard needs to synthesize in order to break through the 3rd level. Lin Xiu muttered to himself, synthesis is not an easy task either. 2 in 1 may seem easy, but the amount required for each synthesis is exponentially increased. Just a little calculation, the amount needed for synthesis in the later stage can't help but make your scalp tingle. Synthesize to level 4 first, then start leveling. Upgrade your skill level and recruit for synthesis. Lin Xiu calculated and slightly modified his plan. Conservatively estimate that synthesizing a 4th level unit would require at least 1,000 skeleton warriors. I can't even imagine that recruiting with initial skills can exhaust people to death. At a certain point, it is necessary to start fighting monsters and upgrading to enhance strength. Only by improving skill levels, recruiting more units at once is essential for efficiency. The 4th level is sufficient for the trial site, at least surpassing 99% of the lords. There is absolutely no problem successfully passing the trial. Keep going, get going. Imagining the future, 20 minutes pass in an instant. Lin Xiu got up and continued to search for the bones of the deceased. 10 minutes later, a level 1 full attribute powerful skeleton warrior was once again synthesized and appeared. Lin Xiu's mana also bottomed out again, and he rested for 20 minutes before continuing his journey. After each break, 10 minutes is enough to recruit 4 times to synthesize a powerful skeleton warrior, then take a 20-minute break to replenish your mana, for a total of half an hour per cycle. 4.5 hours later, 9 strong skeleton soldiers stood in a row. With the addition of weak second-level skeleton guards, a total of 10 skeletons stood quietly behind Lin Xiu. The Lord's army has just formed a large scale, and the strong aura makes the nearby wandering undead beasts unable to resist taking a detour. Full of undead disasters, it's hard to get by. Lin Xiu finally stopped and couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the large army standing in a row behind him. Undoubtedly, the undead is synonymous with terror and power in previous life novels or film and television works. It is also known as a natural disaster. However, in this world, undead lords are actually in a disadvantaged position, because there is an attribute called commanding power that restricts the development of natural disasters. However, this is also considered normal. After all, it is not possible to have unlimited control under the command of the Lord Commander. Recruiting each branch of the army requires consuming some of the Lord's energy to control, and manpower is sometimes exhausted. No matter how powerful a Lord is, it is impossible to recruit troops without limits, and there must be a quantity limit. And this quantity limit is reflected in the attribute column, which is the commanding force. An ordinary apprentice Lord usually has a commanding power of less than 10, however, there are also talented individuals with over 10 commanding abilities, but it won't be too outrageous either. In short, this element strictly limits the occurrence of undead disasters. For the undead race, which generally has slightly lower strength than normal and relies solely on quantity to win, it's a bit unfriendly. Lin Xiu sighed slightly and then looked at the 10 skeletons behind him. It's too difficult to follow the quantity route in this world, then follow the quality route. These 10 of myself are definitely high-quality troops. Now, start synthesizing. After reaching full capacity, recruitment cannot continue, and coincidentally, mana is also depleted again. Lin Xiu simply sat cross-legged to rest and began to synthesize at the same time. 2 powerful skeleton warriors merge into a weak second-level skeleton guard. After the first round of synthesis, 10 skeletons became 6, 5 skeleton guards and 1 powerful skeleton warrior. Skull Guard, Synthesis. Lin Xiu continued to work and placed the Skull Guard in the synthesis column. Obtained. Elite Skull Guard *1, Elite Skull Guard LV1 Second Order, Life. 85, Attack. 55, Defense. 40, Skill. Critical Strike, has a certain chance to deal 250% damage to enemies during attack, buff. Blessing from the Dark Soul Emperor, restores 5 health points per second when not in combat mode. Introduction. A skilled skeleton tribe warrior who has experienced numerous battles and possesses excellent combat skills, second order. Lin Xiu felt a sense of joy in his heart, but he was afraid that he would be like a first-class unit. Combining twice is still a weak first order, which would increase the amount of materials required to synthesize higher-order units by several times. Continue to synthesize. Lin Xiu worked hard and once again synthesized an elite skeleton guard, then 2 elite skeleton guards were placed in the synthesis column. Obtained. Strong Skull Guard, Mighty Skull Guard LV1, Strong Second Order, Life. 100, Attack. 70, Defense. 50, Skill. Critical Strike, has a certain chance to deal 300% damage to enemies during attack, buff. Blessing from the Dark Soul Emperor, restores 8 health points per second when not in combat mode. Introduction. The powerful skeleton guard is a perfect warrior, strong second order, full of attributes. Lin Xiu was overjoyed and looked at the familiar panel with joy. Weak second order, strong second order, that is to say, you only need to synthesize 3 times to break through a grade level. Lin Xiu murmured, feeling a sigh of relief in his heart, This is much less than he estimated, and the materials required to synthesize higher level troops are also much less. A formidable skeleton guard, like a formidable skeleton warrior, it also belongs to the full attribute. Reached the attribute limit of the second level unit. Generally speaking, for each level's full attribute, the attack is around 70% of the health, the defense is around 50%. And life and magic are the intuitive manifestations of the rank of the troops. First order full attribute 50 health points, second order 100 health points, for every level above 3, increase by 100 points. Third order 200 health, fourth order 300 health, and so on. Of course, it seems that there is not much difference between high level and low level branches, but you should know that this is just a basic attribute, and the attribute increase brought about by the upgrade of the unit level is the main one. For every level up, the same initial attribute will be added on top of the basic attribute. That is to say, the second level units with full attributes only have 100 health points at the first level, but rising to LV10 means 1000 life points. Third level fully equipped units also have LV10, but their health can reach up to 2000. The higher the grade of the branch, the higher the level, the greater the difference in strength, and in the later stages, it becomes even more vastly different. Feilu's novel, Fei Wants You to Look Good. Chapter 7. Third Order Branch Skull Swordsman. Sacrifice of Life. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The synthesis is over, and only 3 of the 10 skeletons left in an instant: strong second level strong skeleton guards, weak second level skeleton guards. There is still a strong and powerful skeleton warrior left. 3 skeletons, and in an instant, 7 more slots were left vacant. However, Lin Xiu couldn't help but furrow his brow slightly at this moment. He had forgotten about this incident before. The higher the level of the synthesized skeleton, the more skeletons are needed. The 10-point commanding force is still too low after all. If you really want to synthesize a 4th level unit, it's not enough to calculate. It seems that it's not that simple. To synthesize a strong 2nd level unit, it requires 64 skeleton warriors. 7 spots, split into 2 to synthesize a powerful skull warrior, combine with this one to become a skull guard, and then combine again to produce a strong skull guard. For now, synthesizing 3rd order is enough. After a little calculation, Lin Xiu suddenly felt certain that there was too little room for 10 spots to operate. However, the 3rd level troops are currently sufficient. It is completely possible to synthesize the 3rd level troops and first kill monsters to improve their strength, find a way to increase the commanding power a bit before continuing to synthesize, but in that case, the 100-meter giant bone and the white jade skeleton will have to move forward smoothly. In the end, I can't compare to those strong players who started at level 7. Lin Xiu looked enviously at the chat channel, and the lord named Yi Tian had become a big internet celebrity at the moment, occasionally appearing and posting one's own achievements. It has attracted the crazy pursuit of countless lords, but he does have a proud capital, the initial 7th level bone dragon. The strength is completely beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Countless lords crying for their fathers and calling for their mothers are ferocious beasts in his hands, just like chopping melons and vegetables. At this stage, it's definitely not comparable, but when we put in more effort later on, surpassing him is also a certainty. Lin Xiu cheered himself on. As the 7th level troops were strong, but there were also limitations. So far, Yi Tian only has 1 bone dragon and wants to recruit a powerful 7th level army. The requirements for recruiting resources are also extremely high. The ordinary and weathered corpses are of no use to him at all. Even with normal bones, he could recruit at most a few miniature versions of bone dragon puppets. The ultimate strength is only 2 or 3 levels, and there is likely to be a time limit. To recruit a 7th level bone dragon, it is estimated that only the one with a 100-meter bone level next to him can satisfy. This kind of resource is undoubtedly the most precious in the land of trial. It is common for many lords to not recruit a second high level unit until the trial is over. On the contrary, it was him, although he started slowly, but as long as we persistently recruit and synthesize, we will eventually be able to synthesize 2 or even more 7th order units. When the time comes, any synthesis 8th rank troops will all be born in his hands. Come on. Lin Xiu looked enviously at the chat channel and then turned it off to secretly boost himself. After resting for a while, the mana was restored to its full value again. Lin Xiu stood up and embarked on a journey again. Recruiting once every half hour, you can synthesize a powerful skeleton warrior. Lin Xiu couldn't wait to start synthesis again. Obtained. Skull Guard *1, continue, synthesize again. Without hesitation, Lin Xiu once again placed the 2 skeleton guards in the synthesis column. Obtained. Elite Skull Guard *1, 2nd level Elite Skeleton Guards. Lin Xiu's spirit lifted. If we can synthesize another one, we can synthesize a powerful Skull Guard, and then we should be able to produce a 3rd level unit. The first day of trial is the safest and most peaceful place. When night falls, the place of trials will bring true trials. At that time, there will inevitably be crises everywhere, and this is the best time for all lords to enhance their strength. Once a certain level of strength is not reached, danger will arise in the following trials. Lin Xiu is also full of enthusiasm at this moment, unable to rest, not disdainful of the quality of bones, constantly recruiting and synthesizing. However, due to limited staffing, it is not possible to recruit 1 round of mana consumption and then rest and synthesize at the same time as before. Every time it is recruited, it is immediately synthesized, which inevitably reduces efficiency by a few points. Sometimes when encountering ferocious beasts, they simply avoid them without fighting and move forward, but even so, after 5 hours, still completed the synthesis of the 2nd Elite Skeleton Guard. Synthesis, Elite Skull Guard. Since entering the trial site, Lin Xiu has been working tirelessly for 10 hours without sleep. Finally, there has been a great explosion of strength, and I can't help but feel excited at this moment. 2 vortices appeared before my eyes, sucking in both Elite Skeleton Guards. The spinning vortex will stop and disappear in 5 seconds. Obtained. Strong Skull Guard *1, it's done. 3rd level units, synthesis. Lin Xiu was excited and the ground turned red. After working hard for a full 10 hours, the only 2 remaining troops with bone blades in hand are the formidable skeleton guards. Without hesitation, Lin Xiu activated his synthesis talent again. 2 powerful skeleton guards were sucked into it. Obtained. Skeleton Swordsman *1, Skull Swordsman LV1, weak 3rd order, life. 150, mana. 150, attack. 110, defense. 75, skills. Critical strike. There is a 20% chance to deal 350% damage to enemies during an attack. Sacrifice of life. Killing 2 enemies earns 1 point of energy, and each point of energy can recruit an elite skeleton warrior, accumulating up to 4 points of energy, consuming 10 mana, buff. Blessing from the Dark Soul Emperor, restores 10 health points per second in non-combat mode, has effect in combat mode. Introduction. Elite powerhouse of the Skull Clan, possessing excellent swordsmanship, weak 3rd order, it's done. Lin Xiu looked at the newly revealed military attributes and clenched his fist, exclaiming in surprise, and there are skills that can directly recruit elite skeleton warriors. The attributes of a 3rd level unit are vastly different from those of a 2nd level unit. Firstly, the attribute has changed from 3D to 4D, adding an additional mana attribute. This means that the 3rd level skeleton swordsman will no longer be a large infantry, but will have active skills. When Lin Xiu saw the extra active skill, he widened his eyes even more. Recruiting elite skeleton warriors is equivalent to adding a portion of troops that are not restricted by command power to others, but the 3rd level branches recruit the 1st level branches in terms of strength. It doesn't really matter, even negligible. But for Lin Xiu, this is simply a divine skill. Elite Skull Warrior requires him to synthesize twice to achieve it. each elite skeleton warrior needs to consume 4 ordinary skeleton warriors to synthesize in order to achieve it. Now, by killing 4 fierce beasts, 2 elite skeleton warriors can be recruited directly. This can almost double his synthesis efficiency. If he had this skill during the day, he would only need nearly 5 hours to synthesize a skeleton swordsman. Buzz. Just as Lin Xiu was about to experiment with a ferocious beast, suddenly a blood-red light scattered on the ground. At this moment, the place of trial seems to have undergone some strange change. Request all data, flower evaluation tickets, monthly tickets. The data is dismal. Big shots. 3 things to do when reading. Read, collect, and reward. Chapter 8. Blood Moon Comes. Fight for the Cave. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The blood moon is coming. Is it so late at night so soon? Lin Xiu was in a daze for a moment, unaware that the first day had passed like this. There is no constant battle and monster killing upgrade learned in school, nor is there any treasure hunting adventure. Some are just busy recruiting, synthesizing, re-recruiting, and re-synthesizing. Unconsciously, it was already evening. Sighing, the cemetery is a paradise for the dead, and the sky is covered in gray clouds and mist. Even during the day, the visibility is very low. At this moment, when the blood moon falls at night, it paints the sky and earth with a layer of bright red blood. Instead, it became much brighter. The arrival of the blood moon is a unique feature of the trial land. It also represents that the trial will officially begin. Under the influence of blood moon, monsters in the trial land will no longer be passive monsters harmless to humans and animals, but instead, it became an active monster that would attack upon seeing the Lord, and the range of hatred increased by more than 10 times, and it will also receive a buff boost of 1 month of health, with faster and higher attack speed and powerful healing ability. If the Lord does not receive a certain level of strength improvement during the day, then the first night will be their most difficult crisis to overcome. First, upgrade the skeleton swordsman a few levels, and then find a cave. Lin Xiu looked up at the sky, muttering to himself, pondering how to spend the night. The arrival of the blood moon is the first danger that all apprentice lords encounter in the trial site, but danger also comes with opportunities, and if used well, it can be an important opportunity to enhance one's strength. With the appearance of blood moon, many caves will be randomly refreshed in the trial site. If lords can occupy a cave, they can continuously improve their strength. Permanently increasing the life or mana of a lord will also be an important indicator for determining whether the lord will pass or be eliminated in a week. However, the cave is not so easy to defend, as it naturally possesses an attribute that attracts fierce beasts to attack, and it will also be a battleground for all powerful lords. If you don't have enough strength, staying outside is actually much safer than staying in a cave. However, he has a 3rd-level skeleton swordsman, and his strength should also be considered a relatively strong group. This cave is naturally not to be missed. However, there is still a slight deficiency now, which is that his skeleton swordsman is only at level 1, although it is a 3rd order, it is not very strong solely in terms of attributes, even worse than being promoted to level 5 or 6 as a 1st class unit. Boom! A golden beam of light appeared out of thin air in the distance, and the golden light stood out particularly prominently on the crimson earth. I don't know how far apart it is, but it still instantly caught Lin Xiu's attention. Before Lin Xiu could calculate the distance, another beam of light appeared out of thin air. Like a giant pillar, it fiercely penetrated the earth, with different colors, but the only commonality is that it is highly recognizable. Even if it is thousands of miles away, it can be easily discovered. The cave has descended. Lin Xiu's pupils narrowed and he murmured to himself, the cave is also divided into 10 levels, from low to high. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, white, black, and gold. The higher the level of a cave, the more attributes it will naturally acquire, and each high-level cave is inevitably a battleground for countless strong players. It is even said that there will be guardian beasts occupying the caves above the blue color. To occupy them, one must first defeat the guardian beasts. guarding ferocious beasts is a third-level monster with a minimum level of 20 or above, and in the early stages, it was basically not related to ordinary lords. Green Cave. Lin Xiu locked in the nearest green cave at a glance. The emerald green beam of light was exceptionally prominent in the crimson sky, about 3 kilometers away from him. The coordinates have appeared. And the ranking list has also appeared. Lin Xiu's heart moved and he knew that the real trial had officially begun. In the upper right corner of the attribute bar, a coordinate and a leaderboard appear, silently recording the coordinates of the giant bone. Lin Xiu clicked on the ranking list again. At this moment, there is still nothing left above, and this is the ranking list that occupies the cave. Obviously, at the beginning, no one had time to settle in the cave. Just about to close, a golden name quietly appeared on the leaderboard. No1, Yi Tian. Orange Cave. Indeed, its strength is extraordinary. It is said that Bone Dragon can also serve as a mount. A hint of envy flashed in Lin Xiu's heart, as he was currently the most prominent figure in the entire Sighing Cemetery. The initial unit of the 7th rank occupies the first place, and its position is unshakable. Hurry up the time. Lin Xiu closed the ranking list and led the skeleton swordsman to quickly approach the target. Also, prepare to search for some monsters to kill and upgrade. In fact, he didn't need to take the initiative to search for ferocious beasts to kill. Under the influence of Blood Moon, countless ferocious beasts seemed to smell the smell of blood like sharks. Red light flickered in the hollow eyes, searching everywhere for the traces of human lords. Sha sha sha. The barren land trembled for a moment, and a skeleton warrior trembled as he climbed up from the ground. With his head tilted, he rushed towards Lin Xiu, intending to launch an attack. Shua. The skeleton swordsman is like a loyal guard, with sharp bone swords in his hand that start and fall, quickly chop off the skull of the skeleton warrior, and the remaining bones instantly scatter and fall to the ground. Experience gained. 5. Obtaining copper coins. 1. Recruitment technique for skeleton warriors. Lin Xiu is not idle either. The ready-made bones cannot be wasted. Directly activated the recruitment technique, and in the next second, 2 fallen skeleton warriors were freshly released. Synthesis. The fallen skeleton warrior can only survive for 40 seconds, so Lin Xiu naturally dare not neglect it, directly synthesize them into a strong skeleton warrior. Lin Xiu continued forward with 3 skeletons, and the strength of the 3rd-level skeleton swordsman was finally demonstrated. With their hands wielding knives, the 1st-level undead blocking the way were like chopping melons and vegetables, instantly turned into withered bones on the ground. The only regret is that Lin Xiu's mana is limited. After only recruiting 4 times, it was completely depleted, and 8 skeleton warriors eventually combined to form a powerful skeleton warrior. At this moment, time is tight, and Lin Xiu can't afford to rest in place to restore his mana. I can only ignore the withered bones on the ground and quickly move forward with my troops. However, although he was not recruited, his increase in the number of troops has never slowed down. Killing 2 ferocious beast skeleton swordsmen can recruit an elite skeleton warrior. His strength is actually improving at a speed far exceeding that of the day. Blood sacrifice. Synthesis. Obtained. Powerful skull warrior. Synthesis. Obtain skull guard. Sacrifice with fresh blood. Synthesis. Lin Xiu cleared his magical power, but on the contrary, he became even busier. The 3rd-level skeleton swordsman has a 4-dimensional attribute of over 100, and the skeleton swordsman's bone sword is almost round, crazy slashing and killing nearby enemies. Even occasional fish that missed the net were instantly killed by the skeleton guards that Lin Xiu constantly synthesized. Gain. Experience 5, Skull Swordsman LV1 LV2. After killing the 20th undead, a milky white light floated from the skeleton swordsman's body. The skull swordsman has been upgraded. 3 things to do when reading. Read, collect, and reward.